Hello, everyone. My name is James. We're watching Throwback Afternoon. So, today's video is going to start a new series just in time for the holidays, where I'm going to go through and list my top 10 Christmas movies from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So this will be the first one, so we'll be starting with the 80s, and then the next video, which should be coming out this Wednesday, will be the 90s, and then finally on Friday at 3:30 we will get the top 10, my personal list of top 10 2000s Christmas movies. Now again, this is my personal list, so yours may be different, may have different movies on there or different order of the movies, but this is just based on my taste and just me coming up with a list, or a list for each decade, 3 lists altogether. But yeah, so I just figured it'd be something fun to share and kind of throwbacky to think about some of these older Christmas holiday movies. If you're somebody like me that loves rewatching a lot of these, or some of these I've not watched in a long time, since I was a kid. So without further ado, here comes my top 10 80s Christmas movies. We're going to start at number 10 with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is one of those that I'd heard a lot about for many years. Steve Martin, John Candy, and for some reason I'm not 100%. I'll be sure to do my research on this, but I think it's more of a Thanksgiving movie, isn't it? That they're trying to get back during Thanksgiving, I think, is the whole thing. So, like, a lot of people still watch it around Christmas time, but I think that's why it's a little bit lower on my list. Also, I didn't watch this one until I was a little bit older. Obviously, I heard about it a lot as a kid, but didn't get around to watching it till I was like in maybe high school or a little bit after high school. But it's a great movie, great comedy. Again, Steve Martin and John Candy are wonderful. Their chemistry is great. It's got that perfect, just like 80s vibe, and it still feels good as a Christmas movie, just because it's kind of got that like warmth, and there's a lesson in it. You know, they got to learn to get along and stuff, and there's a lot of snow and ice and stuff, so it still feels very appropriate for Christmas time, even if it is Thanksgiving. Number 9, I have A Christmas Carol. Now, there have been many iterations of A Christmas Carol. There will be many more iterations of it showing up on my future lists. But this particular one, the one that came out in the 80s, is the George C. Scott version, where George C. Scott plays Scrooge. I love A Christmas Carol. It's a great, it's a classic. No matter which iteration or version of it you're watching, there's so many different kinds. But it is really good. And George C. Scott does amazing as Scrooge. This one has that real old school, old timey kind of feel. And it's just really well done. It's more of a darker, more serious tone to it, which is not a bad thing. But definitely, compared to some of the other more lighthearted versions, it's a little bit different in those respects. At number 8, I have another one that most people, kind of a controversial Christmas movie, which I've got a couple of those on this list, but is Gremlins. Number 8 is Gremlins. Great movie. It's got the little monsters. It's almost got like a bit of a sci-fi twist, a bit of a horror twist, but it's iconic. It's so iconic. The creatures, the little Mogwai, and you've got Gizmo. It's just you when you see it, you instantly know what it is, unless of course you think it's a Furby or mistake it for a Furby, which is possible. And I know Furbies were big in the 90s, but I'm wondering if there was a link there. I have to research that too, because there may have been a link between Furbies and Gremlins that I don't know about. But yeah, it's a good movie. I've not seen it in a while, but I do remember enjoying it, and I do know a lot of people have it on a Christmas yearly rotation. Number 7, I have a movie called Prancer. Now, this was one that was less known, or at least to me, it's less talked about. I don't hear as many people talk about the old school Prancer movie with Sam Elliott. And it's where I think his daughter finds a reindeer, and she thinks it's Prancer, one of Santa's reindeer, and wants to nurse it back to health. It's injured and stuff. But it's just a really sweet movie. Back in the 80s and 90s, we had a lot of those like animal kids bonding with animals videos. You had like Fly Away Home. You had Wild America. You had was it one? It's like The Incredible Journey or something where the kids with a panda bear. Like you had all these movies when we were growing up that was very much in that vein, and that may be why I resonated with Prancer so much. But I remember watching it every year as a kid, so that's why it's at my number 7. Number 6, we have another Christmas Carol adaptation in Scrooged. This is the Bill Murray one where they did a modern day telling of the story. And again, I'm just Bill Murray in the 80s and 90s. Like, I mean, Bill Murray I like Bill Murray as an actor anyways, but especially during that peak, the 80s and 90s, when you had stuff like Ghostbusters and What About Bob, some of the best. And Scrooge was right up there with those. He done such a good job in that movie. It's still, and it was fun. I think it was maybe the first time they had done like a reformatting of A Christmas Carol by making it modern day. But yeah, so that made my number 6. At number 5, we have Lethal Weapon. This one might be a bit controversial to some people, but we watch Lethal Weapon every year here at Christmas. It takes place around Christmas time. They have Christmas dinner. Talk about Christmas presents. If spoilers, if you've not seen Lethal Weapon, but at the end of the movie, Mel Gibson's character gives Danny Glover's character a Christmas present that's like one of the ultimate, just it's one of those things. If you've seen the movie and you understand, like it's a really sweet Christmas present, and it's ultimately just this friendship, this awesome friendship. And there's even a scene where I think they're fighting out in the yard and there's like Christmas lights and Christmas decorations behind them. So I consider it a Christmas movie. And more than that, it's a great action movie. It's a great movie. Number 4, we have yet another Christmas Carol. This time it is Mickey's Christmas Carol. Now this one, I'm not sure 100% if you consider it a movie. When I was growing up, it is considered a movie, but I believe it's only 30 minutes runtime. But we still always watched it. It was like a movie, a Christmas movie we'd watch every year. And you had Scrooge McDuck in it playing Scrooge, obviously. And I can't remember if this came first or DuckTales, which one was the actual introduction of his character. But again, it's just one of those ones like it was so heartwarming, and Mickey played Bob Cratchit. Pete, you had Pete the cat was the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. And he's smoking the big cigar and he like points at the grave. It's all these really cool little like Easter egg, or I don't know if Easter egg's the right word, but yeah, you had now I'm going blank on it. You had Jiminy Cricket as the ghost of Christmas Past. It's just such a wonderful telling and version of it. And again, it was very near and dear to me as a kid growing up because we watched it every year. It was one of our major favorites, important. Number 3, we have A Christmas Story. The story of Ralphie telling the story himself growing up and during Christmas, and all the things that came with a kid, wishing for that perfect gift and going to see Santa and the bullies and double dog dares and having to do schoolwork, the final schoolwork before you let out and stuff. And like, obviously it was a time way before I grew up, but some things you could still relate to. Some things about that movie I feel like are so timeless that kids of any ages, even if growing up decades later, still go through similar like ordeals or situations. And just like the soap in the mouth thing, for using a curse word, I went through that as a kid. Like, it only happened I think like the one time, but I remember having at one time I used a word I shouldn't have when I was real little and had to have soap in my mouth. And so like, even though for me that took place during the 90s and his took place during I think it's like the 50s or 60s, it's one of those universal. The movie is so well at universally capturing these situations that kids go through and these themes and these emotions and feelings that it makes it great, especially at Christmas time. And it's just such a wonderful Christmas movie. It's actually my wife's all-time favorite Christmas movie, so we watch it every year. It's one of our favorites here. Number two, another controversial one. This is the big debate amongst everybody. Die Hard. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Now, I agree, it's not just a Christmas movie. I do think it's also a good action movie. It's a good Bruce Willis movie. It's got a lot of stuff to it, but I also think it still counts as a Christmas movie if you want it to. I mean, it takes place at a Christmas party. They play Christmas music throughout the whole thing. His wife's name is Holly. You have the ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun. You have Hans telling his associate, it's Christmas, Theo. It's the time for miracles. I mean, they constantly reference the fact that it is Christmas and that it is the holidays. Heck, at the beginning, John McClane has a giant stuffed bear that he bought as a Christmas present to give away. And he uses Christmas tape, like the decorations and tape at the end in a crucial scene. So, but this movie, again, it's timeless. It's wonderful. It's got heart, comedy, action. It's just got everything, dude. It's one of the best movies, and Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman are in peak form here. Their chemistry, even though they only, I think, meet face to face twice in the movie, and the rest of the time it's over the little walkie-talkie thing. Flawless acting, just phenomenal. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, regardless of the season, but I definitely do always try to at least watch it around Christmas time at least once. And that brings me to my number one. My number one 80s Christmas movie is National Lampoon's A Christmas Vacation. This movie, to me, is in my top tier Christmas movies of all time, period. I'll have to eventually do a list of just my top 10 Christmas movies, period, but that one would definitely be up there. So it was the easiest pick for me for my number one 80s Christmas movie. This movie is classic. It is filled with so many quotable lines and memorable moments, and it's so funny. It will have you laughing. And then there's even still moments that have a lot of heart and have a lot of warmth, and you kind of really, again, a lot of relatable things too. It's just such a wonderful movie. I mean, Chevy Chase, Randy Quaid, Beverly D'Angelo. You've got so many others in this, but they're all peak form, peak acting ability. The first National Lampoon's Vacation is great as well. I've not watched the third one, I'm sorry to say, but I've not seen the third one. But the first one is a classic and great in its own right. But I would actually argue that I like Christmas Vacation even better than the original National Lampoon's Vacation. And again, that's just because we watch it every year. We've watched it every year since I was a kid. It's just such a wonderful movie. Just wonderful, heartfelt, warm movie. So there is my top 10 80s Christmas movies. And be sure to be on the lookout for the 90s and 2000s ones, and even more videos I've got coming out. Some throwback nostalgia. I'm gonna try to find something, do some Christmassy themed, fun throwback gaming, and gaming videos. I've got a couple ideas I'm working on. But if you'd like to see more videos like this, more videos where I break down top 10s, I can do more of some of my throwback top 10s and retro kind of top 10 videos. I'm also thinking about doing maybe a nostalgia kind of video, talking about some of my Christmases as a kid growing up, going into more detail, some of my memories, and sharing some of those with you guys. But yeah, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe and share these videos, and be sure to keep an eye out Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 3:30 in the afternoon, for more throwback afternoon content. Thank you guys so much.